This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benneroff, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. White Plains Week, what's happening? Who are the newsmakers? What's in store for the future? The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. and Ms. White Plains, New York, USA. Stand by for news. White Plains schools will reopen for all students in March on a graduated basis. Infections in White Plains schools run at 3%. Westchester County has 8.5% of the population fully vaccinated. With Yonkers and Mount Vernon out of control on containing COVID, Governor Cuomo and FEMA have set up a 1,000-a-day vaccination center in Yonkers, New York. Meals on Wheels in White Plains needs volunteers' contributions to keep the meals for shut-ins unable to shop or prepare meals for themselves receiving their service. White Plains sales taxes in January are soft, meaning that the city faces hard decisions on the current budget. The frozen tundra begins to melt. Grass was spotted today. Ain't that nice? White Plains Police Reform Report is issued. For discussion, you have until March the 6th to comment on it. Boy, that's a lot of time. The Food Labor Research Center of Berkeley issues a report saying minority workers' tips are declining and they may leave their jobs, threatening restaurant comeback all around. New positive cases of COVID continue at an average of over 400 cases a day in Westchester County. That's a lot. Saturday and Sunday are the last days for you to take advantage of Fitness February. Discounts at some 17 fitness businesses in the White Plains downtown. And next week, March into self-care promotion begins in White Plains to get those manicures, makeovers, haircuts, manicures, the workover, makeover. Details on both promotions are on the White Plains Bid website. Now to the White Plains Week video newsreel, March of Time for February 26, 2021. This will soon be a familiar sight again in White Plains, New York, USA. Children climbing down off school buses, returning to in-school learning full-time if they want to. It's all being made possible for the White Plains School District by the sure but steady, gradually increasing rate of COVID vaccinations. Governor Cuomo has a new website showing the progress of vaccinations in the state. And it showed us yet Wednesday that 82,573 people in Westchester County have completed their COVID series, with 141,359 others having at least gotten one shot. This means Westchester could be, if we really get enough vaccines, 23% vaccinated in a month. And Governor Cuomo is looking for volunteers to vaccinate. Yesterday, he announced if you are a licensed practical nurse, a dentist, an EMT, a medical nursing student with at least a year of clinical experience and more, then you are eligible to take training and and become a vaccinator and help New York administer COVID vaccines over the coming months. And you have to get involved. There's a link on my website, wpcnr.com, my latest Governor Cuomo coronavirus report that can connect you to where you have to call. Now, last week there was a rally to open White Plains schools. I asked Dr. Ricca, Dr. Joseph Ricca, Superintendent of Schools, on Thursday what the situation was on teacher-staff vaccinations in the White Plains School District and how the district was doing.
As you know, that was a pillar point of one of our greatest efforts as soon as the vaccine became available to school personnel. And I'm happy to really share some great news. We've made tremendous progress in being able to help our folks get vaccinated if they're willing and able to do so. So with the support of our local associations and their leadership, and of course the County of Westchester, we have already surpassed more than half of the outstanding vaccination needs in the White Plains City School District. Remember, we have about 1,250 employees. And we are well beyond, I believe, 60% who were willing and able to be vaccinated, and they're already vaccinated or they're in process. So that's fantastic news for White Plains. We have worked regionally and county-wide to make sure that these efforts are replicated, again, with the partnership in our associations in the school districts all throughout Westchester County. And that's good for everyone. Because the more folks who are vaccinated in our county community, the better chance we have of achieving a herd immunity sooner and, of course, reducing potential community spread. But the best news, of course, is that helps us to bring all of our children back into our facilities on a daily basis, something that we've all been working so hard to do over the last year now. It's really, we're approaching the 1 year mark. So great news. And we are moving forward with our reopening plans. We just had another district reopening committee meeting on Wednesday of this week. And I would invite anybody who is interested in learning more about where we are in reopening to take a look at that video. It's posted on the district's website and available on the district's Facebook page as well. Have there been any positive COVID-19 tests in our athletic program since we've moved to the so-called high-risk sports? And unfortunately, the answer is yes. And we anticipated that would occur, just as we know it occurs almost on a daily basis in the school district. The good news, of course, is that we have a fantastic team in place to work in concert with the Department of Health to contact trace, isolate, and quarantine. Of course, it's a nuisance for everybody. I know that, but at the same time, we are able to identify students or adults who may be ill and then help to make sure that we sequester others who were in contact with them. Our teams are running, they're operational, and we're really happy about that. But COVID-19 still exists, and it will still continue to be a factor in really our daily operations here in the district. And the last question that we're going to attend to today is the current White Plains schools infection rate of staff, teachers, and students has been reported right about 3%. And that is good. You want to see zero, of course, but the mitigation efforts and all of the hard work of our team members in our community has truly allowed us to make our schools as safe as they can be. This has never been about outrunning COVID-19. It's not about doing away with COVID-19. It's about managing the risk and lowering the risk in all ways possible.
The numbers are right there on the state school district COVID tracker. In the video that you're seeing now, it's a left to right scan of White Plains COVID infections. And as you look at this, you can see, as we get to the end, that more teachers and staff have been infected. But with 8,500 students, teachers, and staff, 277 have been infected, about 3.3%. And that's up to as of 2 days ago. Now, after this interview, Dr. Ricca sent me a statement, that the White Plains schools would be opening on a staggered basis in sequence in March for all students. Details to come, he promised. And he did caution, as he said in the video, that if you do not want your child to go back to school, want to continue remote, they can. Now, how would we close the vaccine gap? Big question, folks. All the shot numbers change hourly, but the need is easily demonstrated. Westchester got only 7,400 vaccines this week, February 22nd to 25th. They need 28,000 doses a week for people needing second shots, and supposedly, if you got the first shot, there is enough supply to give you a second shot. But you need 56,000 a week for first shots if we want to reach 50% vaccinated by summertime. The Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccine will be a big solution if we can get a good share. Meanwhile, Westchester Medical Center has been appointed head of yet another task force. There are too many task forces not accomplishing their tasks, folks. And the medical center has been appointed head of this task force to distribute vaccines throughout Westchester. This is the place the governor castigated for not having their staff people vaccinated fast enough. He did a press conference on that. Now, Westchester Medical Center might have learned something. They have to do a 100% better job, 200% better job. People's lives, the recovery of the county depend on fast vaccination and sacrifice. A number of state senators and assembly people lobbied the Washington Westchester reps for more vaccines. And last week, the Armory in Yonkers was announced as a new 1,000 a day vaccination center. Why? Because Yonkers and Mount Vernon are showing no signs of slowing down their infections anytime soon. Obviously, the thinking is, if we vaccinate the people who haven't got it yet, hey, maybe we can stop the spread, which neither city seems capable of stopping. Now, Yonkers in the last 2 weeks had 1,618 new infections. 123 persons a day. Mount Vernon, 536 infections in the last 2 weeks. That is 24 a day. New Rochelle should have a center too. They are at 541 infections the last 2 weeks. 26 new infections a day. As the second graphic shows, those 4,728 new cases from the 18th to the 22nd means that 236 could be hospitalized by next week. Hospitalization rates are hard to come by locally because they are not routinely available, or so the county says. Now, this intrigues me. Here is the new Yonkers site. There is the Yonkers Armory. And its place is on the map at 2 Quincy Place. The White Plains Week News satellite shows where it is in Yonkers, and I am told by a person familiar with Yonkers that it is a tough uphill walk for anybody from Getty Square up to that site. And if you're a senior, it's got to be even tougher. They should consider shuttle buses at Getty Square to whisk them on up, and buses direct from Mount Vernon to facilitate matters. Just saying, just a tip, guys. You have to call 2 phone numbers, one to see if you are eligible and the other to make an appointment, and it is only open to Yonkers and Mount Vernon residents for the next week for appointments. And the shots begin Wednesday, March the 3rd. You can see the numbers on the WPCNR website, WPCNR.com. Big blue slide, you can't miss it. Now, I hope opening this center is not too late. It should have been open January 10th. And our representatives are just discovering we have a COVID problem and that perhaps we need another site. And we just dismantled we're dismantling the tent up at the Westchester County Center. I don't think that was a good decision. Do you? No. COVID is affecting more than just people needing vaccines. It's affecting seniors who are shut in White Plains. Meals on Wheels needs your help. I interviewed Paul Schwartz, board chair of White Plains Meals on Wheels, and his executive director, Ms. Susanna Sussman, on how COVID is affecting Meals on Wheels service in White Plains, New York, USA.
Everything has changed for us, except we're still delivering 6 days worth of lunches and dinners to residents of White Plains. That has not changed at all. What has changed is the demand for our service. We are serving more people than we ever have, and our delivery schedule has changed. So where we used to go out 6 days a week, now it's 2, but we're still bringing 6 days worth of food for our residents, and each person gets a cold lunch and a hot dinner for each day that we deliver. It's one of the challenges that we're facing. It's not ideal, it really isn't, but we, especially for someone who has like a memory problem, it can be tricky to take a frozen meal and reheat it safely. I worry about it, but for now, the safest thing is to keep our volunteers going in only 2 days a week as opposed to 6. It's just less exposure for everybody.
Right. Right.
And how long?
What it misses is the daily visit, and we've made up for that somewhat by the fact that some volunteers make phone calls to the clients on the other days.
Now, volunteers, you had told me that you are interested in more volunteers, and how does one become a volunteer and what is required?
We're always looking for volunteers, especially now. What's different about delivering now is that we're sending our volunteers out alone or with a spouse or family member, as opposed to the way we used to do it, which was to send out volunteers in teams of 2, which makes a lot of sense because one person can wait in the car, the other person can run the food into the apartment building or the house. So now it's impossible to be socially distant in a vehicle. So we have people going out on their own. So we're really looking for people who are willing to go out by themselves. And if they have up to 2 hours, 1 day a week to contribute, it does take that long. But we have been really fortunate to have a number of new volunteers that have stepped up this year, and where our volunteers used to be mostly retirees, I'm sure you can imagine that many have chosen not to volunteer. So now we're really, really happy and fortunate to have some younger folks that have stepped up in the meantime. And things are slowly starting to come back a little bit. We have one of our volunteers emailed me, she just got vaccinated. She wants to come back starting in April. So things are starting to feel a little bit better, but I don't know if our volunteers will be going out in teams again for a while. So we're really looking for people who are willing to go alone, even as new volunteers. And the best way to reach out to us would be to call us or email. And our phone number is 946-6878.
Don't forget, if you can contribute, $54 furnishes meals for a week for one person. If you can volunteer, call Meals on Wheels at 914-946-6878. COVID is affecting White Plains seriously in the city budget too. January sales tax receipts were down 11.4%, and we have 5 months to go to make it up. Even if we get exactly what we got last year, White Plains will only get $42 million at the present rate total for the year. It is no wonder all city departments have been asked to find cuts. Westchester County is down 5%, and that's with the new sales tax increase, so they better start figuring out this year's deficit now, hadn't we? Now, there is good news. Yes, I can occasionally report good news. There is good news. I saw grass this morning outside the palatial WPCNR studios. The 6 inches of frozen ice that has gripped White Plains, New York, USA all month is starting to melt away. But, caution, I wouldn't book those northern flights yet, snowbirds. We've got all of March to come. Now, the city quietly introduced its police reform report this week. It was prepared by a committee formed in September. The draft report is 66 pages long and has a lot of suggestions that I suggest ignore extensively the fact that the White Plains Police have not shot and killed a person in 10 years and have an outstanding relationship with the minority communities that they police here in White Plains. Otherwise, arrests would not be made as quickly as they usually are. Looking over the report, I have read through it, and you can too if you go to the city website and then send in your comments. You need to. Think how you would like to be a police officer working under the conditions and considerations stated and forcefully stated in this report. This report was requested by Governor Cuomo of all cities in the state during the controversy over the Floyd killing last summer. But in my opinion, since that shooting in 2011, the White Plains Police Department has performed with distinction, with service integrity and respect. You need to think about putting the pressures this report wants to put on police officers. The report also recommends local service organizations who will help sensitize the police, train them, and they make even weapon suggestions and tactics, protocols and procedures. And it's very extensive, a lot of hard work, and a lot of wishful thinking put into this report. Perhaps the report should be looked at in light of the day of no return, the infamous January 26th attack on the Capitol Police in Washington, D.C. Another report I received this week from the Food Labor Research Center of Berkeley, California. They are fighting for a $15 minimum wage and rights of food workers. They raised the issue that tips have fallen to so low in restaurants in New York City that many restaurant workers are leaving the restaurants, and actually that will not be good for the recovery. Frankly, the restaurants cannot at the present time work at full capacity. They report 59% of all the reports 59% of all New York restaurant workers and 75% of Black New York restaurant workers reported their tips have declined 50% or more. Well, my feeling is that persons going out to eat are hurt too by their ability to pay. But still, you should tip generously. Generously. Truly. It will make the worker feel good, and you will too. You should tip deliveries too. And if you buy 2 bagels in the morning, give the change to the tip jar. White Plains lost Lawrence Graham, a renowned White Plains High School graduate, at the age of 58 this week. Westchester County Executive George Latimer praised him extensively as an inspiring person. And there's a look at his obituary on the right, the White Plains High School graduate, a person devoted to public service. And we always miss those people who will no longer be with us to provide their expertise and service. Now it is time to look seriously at the current pandemic situation in Westchester County. In the first slide that you're going to see, you're going to see how far we have come. And then in the second slide, you'll see that though infections are down, the number of cases is similar. Way back to April the 24th in 2020. And another slide, and in this slide, which has orange on top and the little blue line curve at the bottom, that shows positives related to number of tests on the same day. And the final slide shows you where Westchester is going and has gone the last 2 weeks, the last week since we did last week's show. At this rate of new infections, we hope they are right about how the new infection medications are doing a better job in curing COVID symptoms and getting more people out that don't have to be hospitalized. We hope they are right. We need more vaccines in the hundreds of thousands within the next 2 months to get ready to return to normal by September. Everything is not okay. Mask up, and I hope you do not get sick, or you or your family get sick. And don't put yourselves at risk. Please, you don't want to get this disease, and I hope you don't. This is John Bailey saying good night, Jim Beneroff, and good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week, news and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.